Hello and welcome to this tutorial. My name is Luke with Puffington, and today I want to talk about formatting when you get started with a new Prezi and how that relates to frames. So I'm going to get a new Prezi loaded here. I'm just going to click Start a Blank Prezi. I'm going to go ahead and even delete this first frame here, and I'm going to insert a couple of symbols just to give this presentation some context. So I'm going to add this car, and I'll add another car next to it. Okay, I'm going to close that. So one of the things you want to consider right away when you're starting a Prezi is what type of device are you going to be giving this presentation on? Is it going to be on a computer, an iPad, and what type of screen size is that? So if you go to the top of the right hand here, you see this bolt icon. You'll see there's options for a couple of screen ratios. By default, it's off, which means whatever device you're presenting on, Prezi will just show the entire screen filled out. So sometimes that can be useful. However, if you're presenting, let's say, on a widescreen device like mine, your presentation might look a little bit different than if you're presenting on a full screen device, because it's just going to fill out the entire space. So on a full screen device, you're going to actually miss details that you wouldn't be able to see, or that you would be able to see on a widescreen device. So I really recommend to choose one of these from the beginning. That way, whatever frames you're setting up, it'll make sure and be played back the same way on any device. So let me just give you an example of that. So let's say I choose screen ratio 4:3. And I'm going to choose a bracket frame here. I'm just going to add one. Now let's say I only want to get this yellow car in the shot. So I'm going to move it just like that. And now when I go to present, you'll see that there's some black sidebars along here. So no matter what device I'm presenting on, my presentation will always maintain that 4:3 aspect ratio so that I can really make sure and only show the content I want to. If I went back to off and go back to that presentation mode, you'll see that now I can see outside of that screen, whereas if I had a full screen monitor I wouldn't be able to, but now I can actually see the left side of that white car. So that can sometimes create some issues and have the audience seeing information that you don't want them to see. So that's why it's so important to choose a screen ratio. So really quickly, 4:3 is really the default for older projectors, older monitors, and of course the iPad also uses a 4:3 aspect ratio. So if you know you're going to be presenting on that format, I recommend the 4:3. However, 16:9 is really growing more popular. That's the widescreen format, so that's newer monitors, newer projectors, those types of devices you'll want to choose the 16:9 aspect ratio. So generally that's what I do unless I'm making a presentation for iPad. So I'm going to click on that here. And so once I've got that created, now I'm going to delete this frame here. Now you'll notice when I go to any of these other than the circle and I click on it, it'll actually automatically create a widescreen frame instead of earlier it chose a 4:3. So that was really helpful. Now one other thing you can do rather than resizing these frames like this is you can draw them. So the way to do that is by holding down the F button on the keyboard. That's the shortcut to design a frame. And you'll want to make sure, again, at this top right, that shortcuts are enabled to be able to do this. So if I click on F, I'll now be able to draw. Now if I didn't have a screen ratio chosen before, I could just draw, but again I'd run into that same issue where even if I did draw something, it's going to present it in either the 4:3 or 16:9 aspect ratio typically, depending on what device I'm looking at. But now, since I have 16:9 defined, once I drag it just right, you'll see at the top left of that box, it'll say 16:9. And as long as I keep dragging out toward that corner, it'll maintain that. So I know that exactly right where I'm putting this is how it's going to appear when I go to presentation mode. So I'm going to edit path, click on this frame, and now again I'm showing exactly what I want to, and that car on the right side is not appearing. I'm going to click Escape. Now I'll draw a second frame. Like I said, this will apply to any of these frames here. They'll come out in that 16 by 9 if I chose it, or 4 by 3 if I chose it there. Now let's say I just want to show the white car but not the yellow car in my second frame. Alright. You go to Present. And there you see that this information is appearing just like I want it to appear. I'm not seeing anything on the sides that I don't want the audience to see. And that way I can really ensure that my presentations look the same no matter where I'm presenting them. So always make sure to choose that aspect ratio beforehand and put some thought into where you're going to be making the presentation ultimately. So again, this is Luke with Puffington. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and look for more to come in the following weeks. Thank you.